Of the 18 trainers here at the Slingall Turf Club, none more can boast a more international CV than Irishman Danny Murphy. Having settled winners in his native island, Danny has also trained with plenty of success in England, Macau, Singapore, Dubai and now Malaysia. Of these locations Danny has trained in, his wins have included Group 1s in both Macau and Singapore, as well as a winner at the 2005 Dubai Racing Carnival at the old Nad Al Sheba track. Danny is now based here at the Slingall Turf Club, and today I've come along to meet the trainer. This morning I've come to stables D6 here at the Slingall Turf Club, Kuala Lumpur, to catch up with Irishman Danny Murphy. Danny, thanks very much for joining me this morning. We know you more as a trainer here in Malaysia, but like a lot of guys that train here, you did ride as well. You started your riding career in Ireland, and just tell us a little bit about how you got going.
I came home from school one day, Nicholas, and my father, who was a trainer for many years, said, get him a licence. And the following day I started. And I was lucky enough, a week later, then I rode a winner. And it took off from there.
So it all seemed to start pretty quickly then, Danny. But the riding career didn't last overly long. But with that, you crammed in plenty of winners. I think you rode near to 300 winners. Just tell us a little bit about the success you had as a jockey.
Yeah, I only rode for about 10 years because I was really struggling with my weight. In those days, I was finding it hard to do 55 kilos. And not like today where the maidens have 60 kilo. Now, in those days, there were only 57. But no, and I always had it in my head, I always wanted to be a horse trainer. And in the winter times in Ireland, we used to go to America, which was great experience for us. About 10 apprentices and myself would always get on the plane the 1st of November because the racing season in Ireland had stopped. And it would start again on March 17th, St. Patrick's Day. So we'd get over there for 3-4 months at a time. Experience was great, and I decided, when I was young, actually 25, 26, I knew myself I couldn't hold my weight, so I said I'd better start training.
So from there then, Danny, you'd finished your riding career at a relatively young age in comparison to a lot of jockeys. But from there, was it always the next move to go training?
It was, and I was lucky enough that my father-in-law at the time was Liam Brown, who was the champion trainer in Ireland, and my father. And I rode 2 winners for them one day in Galway at an Irish festival place. And I threw the reins over its head and I said, I'm getting a trainer's license. And a month later I got a trainer's license and I took off from there.
So then just tell us then a little bit, you started training, again, relatively young really for a trainer. I mean, a lot of guys that have ridden would have still stayed riding into their 40s and 50s even. But initial success as a trainer in Ireland, was there much of that?
Yes, my first runner actually was at the Curragh. It was a 2-year-old filly that I owned it. And I just gave her a run, and I was lucky enough that she won. And she was an outsider price, 33-1, and then I ended up starting the following seasons fresh, 1990, with 22-year-olds, and then after in 1993 I had a very nice horse that I sold to a Hong Kong trainer called Ivan Allen, who was a Malaysian actually. And he invited me over. The horse was very successful, and he invited me over for the Hong Kong Derby. And the following day, we went to the races in Macau. And he said to me, "Would you like to train here in Macau?" And I said, "God, I could give this a chance. I really liked it." So I said, "Here, we'll give it a go."
So then from Ireland, it was next step was Macau. You were on a plane to Macau, and from there you trained with a lot of success in Macau, Danny. I think I'm right in saying you trained a couple of Derby winners, their Group 1s, a Sand Derby, which is a Group 2, a Sprint Trophy, which is a Group 1. Just tell us about the success you had in Macau, and it must have been a fantastic experience for you.
Well, I would have to put it down. In those days, that was back in 1995, 96. And before really that the Irish stallions started shuttling, the likes of Dane Hill was the only stallion had moved there to Australia. So the European horses were much stronger than the Australian horses in those days. And I had 25 Irish horses. So then, unfortunately, as the years went by and the Irish horses put speed or something into the Australian mares, and then it was very difficult to win races, to be quite honest. We started buying them in Australia then after that.
So it soon caught up then with the breeding. But from Macau, I think your next move then was it Singapore next, Danny? Singapore, I think you've trained in Singapore. You won a Singapore Gold Cup with a very good horse, Turfel, that done you very proud. Just tell us a little bit about training in Singapore.
Yes, I was invited to train in Singapore, and I started in 2004. And of course, anywhere you go, you need good stock. So I went to the auction in Tattersall's, and I bought Terfel there, and he was actually quite expensive at the time, and I couldn't sell him when I arrived in Singapore. Nobody would take him, fortunately for me. And then after 6 months he acclimatized and he started to really come into himself, and he won the Singapore Gold Cup. And after that then we decided to bring him to Dubai and give it. He was myself and John Marr John Marr had a horse called Limbs Classic, and I had Terfel, and we decided we'd go to Dubai and give it a go. And we were very lucky. The first time we raced them, they won there, both of them.
So, I mean, to be able to put Dubai on your CV, Danny, I think it was also a winner at the Dubai Carnival, so that's quite something to boast about. But from that, I mean, you've trained in numerous countries altogether, Danny. Singapore, you had plenty of success, obviously then going to Dubai with Terfel. But then I think from Singapore, a job offered to England.
That's right. The footballers got around me then because I was pally with Ian Rush, who used to play for Liverpool. And they enticed me, and they had 50 horses there in Doncaster in England, north of England. And they wanted to buy another 50 horses. And there was a shot maybe of, I was after training the winner of the Macau Derby, and all these things get into your head, and maybe we could win an Epsom Derby or an Irish Derby, and so we'll give it a shot. But very successful the first 3-4 months, but the whole thing closed down because there was a tax invasion there, and that left me in a bit of limbo land, to be quite honest. So I was back in Ireland just buying, and I became a bloodstock agent for 2 years, and I had a little bit of health problem. And I said, if I walk out of this hospital, I had a tumour actually, but I said, if I walk out of this hospital, I said, I'm going to go back training again. So that's why Malaysia was the easiest place to set up. I'm delighted I came here. I've been here a year. My son has joined me now the last 2 months ago, and he's a great help to me. And I'm getting older now, and maybe he'll take over the reins when I'm finished.
Perhaps then, so maybe we'll see another D. Murphy on the race cards. And just tell us a little bit then, Danny, about the Selangor Turf Club. I mean, a lot of people I've spoken to in my short time here so far, they really talk up the facilities here, and I think they are by no means, they're world-class facilities. And in your opinion then, of seeing a lot of Asian racing, how do you rate this place compared to a lot of others?
Well, I have to say that this racetrack, personally, as you know, I've trained winners everywhere, but this racetrack, we have no rain here for the last 6 weeks, and we'll race here on Sunday, and the ground is perfect. You never get a horse that jars up or gives trouble. It's a fantastic racetrack, and it's a lot more relaxed here, as you see, the tropical weather, very relaxed, and not like home now. Unfortunately, at this moment in time, it's probably snowing back in Ireland, but no, it's very enjoyable to train here, and it's an easy life.
It is indeed, Danny, and from what we can see this morning, I mean, the horses seem to enjoy it. You seem to enjoy it yourself. Your staff seem very content, and yeah, I mean, all in all, it looks like onwards and upwards for Danny Murphy. Just touching upon, you've got quite a big team for this year. Just sort of early on in 2014, but you must be looking forward to the year. Any real horse in particular that you're looking forward to? Perhaps one that we haven't seen much of, or one, a little dark horse maybe, that we might be able to follow and watch win?
You could probably. I have a nice filly here called Sister-in-Law. I bought her in Ireland, and for some reason the fillies do well in the tropics. If you look back a couple of years ago, we had Jolly Shinju, and she went and she won the Singapore Derby, and she won all around her. And I don't know, I think the fillies do well in the hot climates here. And I'm looking for, I started her 2 weeks ago, and she finished fifth first race, and she's going to run in the next 2 weeks, so let's hope that she goes upwards.
Well, let's hope Sister-in-Law then can hit the target when she runs next. Danny, thanks very much for joining me here this morning. It's been a fascinating insight into your career, both as a jockey and a trainer. Now you're here at the Selangor Turf Club. You seem to be enjoying things, and I wish you all the very best in the coming weeks and months training from the Selangor Turf Club.
Thank you very much, Nicholas. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.